Hello everyone. This video walks through completing Packet Tracer Assignment 5.2.1.4, Configuring SSH. This Packet Tracer assignment is a part of the Cisco RNS Routing and Switching Essentials version 6 curriculum. Now, in this particular lab, we have two devices. We've got a switch connected directly to a PC. Now we're going to configure the switch for remote access. Even though I know PC1 is directly connected to switch 1, the goal here is to configure switch 1 so that we can remotely access it over our VTY lines. If you remember back, we have always used Telnet up to this point to configure our remote access to our switches and our routers over our VTY. So we'll do line VTY. If you want 5 people to log in, then we do 0-4. It assigns each person a channel, starting with channel 0, first come, first serve kind of deal. Or you could do 0 through 15. That would allow 16 people to log in at a time. So we are done with using Telnet. Remember, Telnet sends everything in plain text, so that is not very secure. We want to use something better, which is SSH. We have to set up a couple things, though. The configurations are, we still use the line VTY, but the configurations themselves are a little bit more extensive because, again, we are configuring something that is encrypted. So in the lab, the first thing they have you do, there is no, one thing to note, there's no ability here. If you click on CLI, you see it says locked, okay? So, but previously we'd be like, okay, well, let me use a console connection. The connect links is also locked. So how do I get to it? Well, you need to go to PC1, desktop, command prompt, and right now we do have Telnet configured, so we're going to use it. So Telnet, and then you just type in the IP address of the management VLAN for switch 1, so 10.10.10.2. You hit enter, and it asks you for a password, which they tell you is Cisco. That is step A over here in part 1. Okay, we're going to do enable, and again, password is Cisco, all lowercase. It's not class like we usually do, so both passwords are Cisco so far. All right, now it tells you to do a save in case you make a mistake. You can power cycle S1, so if you save your configurations now, if you power cycle it, it'll go back to default. So we're going to do a copy, run, start while we're here. Okay, so copy, run, start, press enter twice. And now let's show our current configurations. So show run. And I'm going to hit a space bar to go down. They tell you to notice here, it says enable password Cisco. Okay, we're trying to encrypt stuff here remotely and locally, so we might want that to be encrypted. So to do that, and even here you see these passwords, it tells you they're Cisco. So to encrypt them, if you remember, if we go to configuration mode, okay, to encrypt our passwords is service password -encryption. Okay, and remember, if you don't always know where the dash is, use your tab key. It will auto finish for you, or your question mark. So service password encryption. Now if I go back and do a show run again, you notice that instead of showing the word Cisco, it has this encrypted part here, right? The only bad part is, again, this could be reverse engineered if you got access to it, because you notice the output is the exact same. So if you were to ever get the hash, which combines with your password to spit out some output and run it through the algorithm to encrypt it, if you get that hash, then you could crack it and reverse engineer the password to be Cisco, because it's the same output every single time. It's not dynamic, but it's better than nothing. Okay, so we verified that so we got part 1 done. We can check that off. Now part 2, we want to actually, again, when we did Telnet to this, everything we're doing right now could be sniffed using a simple program like Wireshark or anything. We don't want it to have those type of capabilities when we remotely log into our switch. So we want to encrypt that or use something different other than Telnet. Right now they've got Telnet set up. Under here you see it says line VTY04 and they've done our normal stuff, password, whatever you want it to be, log in, right? So there really isn't a username, it's just a password. That's all you need. And they've got it set up from 04 all the way through 515. So you could just do 0 through 15 as well, and it'll divide it up every time, but it'll cover all of them. Okay, so the first thing we need to do when you're configuring SSH is do IP domain name and put a domain name for the network. So they want you to use netacad.pka. So that's what we're going to do, netacad.pka. Next, we're going to create some encryption keys. So we'll do crypto key generate and then RSA. So these are RSA keys that we're generating. Now by default, if you were to press enter again here, it's going to use 512-bit encryption. We want to use 1024 is what our directions say. So we're going to type 1024 and press enter. It says that it generated 1024-bit RSA keys. They are not exportable, meaning you can't export them to another switch or anything. It's just for ours. Okay. Now we need to create a user. Before with Telnet, we did not create users. So we need to do username, and it wants us to do administrator. Okay, make sure you spell it right, administrator. And then a password, but we want to use the encrypted version, so we say secret, Cisco. But then when it asks us for our password, that's what we're going to use, is Cisco. Okay, so no longer will we be able to, if you notice with Telnet, it didn't ask us for a username, it just asked us for a password. With SSH, you need a username and a password. And it's not sent in plain text. Telnet, it sent our password we typed in plain text, so anybody could sniff that traffic and see it or eavesdrop on that traffic. All right, now we need to go apply it to our interface. So line VTY 015. Now you might say, how do I know when to configure that many? Well, right here it showed us that we had 0 through 15 configured. If not, then you may be okay getting away with 04. It just really depends on how many people you want to log in. So line VTY 015. Now we have to set the transport method to SSH. So transport input SSH, that's always needs to be typed, and then log in local because we want to use the local username and password that we just set up. Okay, then you can exit out, and we want to set the version usually to 2. Right now it says it's at 1.99. Where'd it go? Right here, SSH 1.99. Usually you want to set the version to 2. All right. And also, lastly, it asked us to remove any existing VTY line passwords. So let me go back into 015. Oops, line VTY 015, not lit. And then we want to do no password at all. So we're just removing any passwords that had set, remember, which were Cisco before. All right, so that gives us 100 out of 100. Now, first, I'm going to do a show run just to show you what it looks like. Okay, we got our IP SSH version 2 going on. Our domain name is netacad.pka. You notice we have our username of administrator. Secret is set, but it doesn't tell you what that is. All right. Then we've got line VTY04, login local. You don't see the password in there anymore, and transport input SSH. All right, so we've got everything configured there. So let's exit all the way back out. We just ended our connection with our router, or sorry, with our switch. Now we're back on just PC1. Okay, so let's actually attempt to use SSH. All right, well, actually, let's attempt to use Telnet one more time and see what happens. 10.10.10.2. All right, you see it says trying, but it doesn't actually connect. It opens and then it closes, right? Let me try it again. Opens and closes. So Telnet is no longer being used. That's not an option. So to use SSH, we're going to do SSH-L. Okay, and you see that right here. All right, it says the attempt should fail, and then attempt to log in using SSH. Type SSH and press enter without any parameters. you can basically, it shows you the usage instructions. The L option is the one we're going to set here. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I forgot the username there. So we're going to do SSH-L, and then our username is administrator, and then our target is 10.10.10.2. Okay, and now it's going to ask me for my password, which we set as Cisco. Hit enter, and voila, you see now I'm in my switch. I can go to configuration mode, I can do a show run, so I'm back in, right? So again, if you exit all the way back out, close your connection, it's SSH-L, your username, and then your target. What is your IP address? Okay, you type in the Cisco password we set up, and voila, you're back in. So again, even though this is directly connected, this would be like for remote connections from other networks, all right? So again, this allows you to see how we configure SSH is much more secure than Telnet. So this is what you would want to use for remotely logging into your switch.